Welcome back to the Overlooked and Underrated podcast. Quite a few things have happened in the sports world, especially basketball. But first and foremost, all my people of Atlanta, I just want you to realize something. The most recent team to win a championship here in Atlanta, really the only sports team to win a championship here in Atlanta are the Atlanta Braves, which was 1995 and most recently 2021. The St. Louis Hawks won a championship back in 1954 or 58. It was 50-something. And as we know, the Atlanta Falcons has not won a championship. Last year, the Braves were actually very good teams, is that they were injury-ridden. The injury bug was very apparent. Same thing with the Atlanta Hawks this year. They may not have been championship contenders, but they were a really good basketball team. However, though, the injury bug was just swarming around here in Atlanta and just would not leave. Finally, hopefully the injury bug can go on somewhere else. Hopefully it's dead. The species then died off and will leave my city alone. But I just want the people of Atlanta to realize that the best chances that we have of winning a championship are the Atlanta Braves, who recently won back in 2021. And, they are one of the better baseball teams, a top 6, top 7 team in the league, possibly really a top 5 team in the league. It's not really that many teams better than the Atlanta Braves. And I just want everybody to realize that the Atlanta Braves is your best chances of winning a championship and having a parade here in the city. The Braves, they had an 0-7 start at the beginning of the season, and they, times were a little bit tough at the beginning of the season, but they found their rhythm, and they're hovering around 500. Just wait till Ronald Acuna Jr. comes back, which should be at the end of this month. Strider is back, but, he's trying to find his groove, being a whole year away from the game. And then coming off the surgery as well, the Tommy John surgery he had got last year. So we're going to see how those guys implement into the system. So first and foremost, let's talk about that. I want to get that out of the way. Secondly, most recently in the NBA, Tyrese Haliburton is like that. He's that guy. Whoever said he was overrated, this is the Overlooked and Underrated podcast. And I actually think Tyrese Haliburton is underrated. People don't talk about him like that. He's not the biggest superstar. He's not the guy that's going to give it to you. He's not going to drop 45 on you and win. He's going to beat you scoring 18 to 22 points while giving you 8-9 assists in an efficient way with no turnovers and, pretty decent from the field and so on. He's that kind of guy, that kind of superstar. Going to beat you, but in a quiet manner. Not that he's a quiet person, but I scored a quiet 24 points and won. I don't have to go off and give you 48 and win. He's not that kind of guy. But the point is, though, whoever made that list is really just that most overrated players in the NBA list is really just full of guys that people in the NBA don't like. Like Trae Young being fourth on that list is insane. Trae Young would give your team 40 and 15, but yet he's one of the most overrated players in the league. Please, let's be for real. Let's be serious. But Tyrese Haliburton has been giving it to everybody. You guys do realize that in the NBA playoffs, teams that trailed 7 or more points with a minute left, it's like 400 and something, however many games it's been. In 3. The 3 games have come from the Tyrese Haliburton-led Pacers. In each series, Game 5 against the Bucks, Game 2 against the Cavaliers, and Game 1 in Madison Square Garden. Incredible. This guy has been clutch all year. Talking about game winner after game. He's had a game winner, game tying shot in each of the series he's played in this year so far. And let's talk about the choke thing. I ain't gonna lie. When he did the choke thing, it was apparent. It was called for. It's just too bad that his foot was on the line. It was a 2 instead of a 3. If it was a 3, then you definitely had to do it then. But it felt a little cringy, just a tad bit, because he was too hyped for it. Like when you do the choke thing, it's supposed to be like a calm thing, like yeah, like because look when Reggie did it. Reggie wasn't doing all the yelling and stuff. He just like y'all choking. You feel what I'm saying? So it's just two different emotions. They just don't go together. You can't be too hyped when you're doing it. You're supposed to be calm and chill with it. Like I'm like that. Like you feel what I'm saying? So that's why I felt a little cringy. But however, though, it definitely was called for because the New York Knicks was up 14 points with about 3.5 minutes to go. And then Nembhard comes out, hits about 5 to 7 straight threes, brings the game in close proximity, and then Tyrese Haliburton hits the game-tying shot. And then he did it and it went to overtime. And it's okay that he did it because they won in overtime. So it was still definitely called for regardless. It's just too bad. But if that was a 3, you can't blame him. He definitely had to do it. I'm so sorry, y'all. This is just topics I'm excited to get to. And I tried to record something for y'all some time ago, but the file, I guess, had got corrupted. Something was wrong with the file, and it wouldn't upload, man. So I'm redoing this episode. Now let's look at Anthony Edwards and building his legacy. Anthony Edwards is building towards the resume that of Detroit Pistons Isaiah Thomas have. And what do I mean by that? When you look at Detroit Pistons Isaiah Thomas, he is the only player to have beat Bird, Magic, and Jordan in the playoffs. Larry Bird, Magic Johnson, and Michael Jordan in the playoffs. When you look at Anthony Edwards, he has beat Kevin Durant. Think about the big 3 of the NBA of this past generation, the 2010s. You look at, he beat Kevin Durant, he beat LeBron James, and I talked about this before the series started, so this is what I would have said, and he was gearing to beat Steph Curry. And then later on, obviously we beat Jokic, but when you guys look 17, 23, 24 years later, and you look at Anthony Edwards' career, you can say in the playoffs, he's beat Kevin Durant, LeBron James, and Stephen Curry. Granted, now we know after the series, he didn't necessarily beat Steph Curry because Steph Curry didn't really play. He played one game of that series. However, though, if he gets that chance again, he beat Steph Curry's team, so people will look at it later and like, whoa, he beat the Warriors? He beat LeBron Lakers? He beat the KD Suns? That's going to be crazy. In the playoffs. Man, the Western Conference is a gauntlet compared to the Eastern Conference. It's not even close. Just look at how good teams are in the Western Conference. It's just not fair. Anybody's lucky, really, to get out the Western Conference, to be honest. Okay, let's talk about MVP. I'm so sick of, man, the way MVP is done these days. I get it. You can't give the same person MVP repeatedly because Jordan would have 8 MVPs. Kobe would have like 6. LeBron would have like 8 as well, 7, 8. I get it. But the thing is, though, normally when a person wins MVP, the next time they win it is harder. It's harder for them to win it again. It's even harder for them to win it again. Like when Giannis was winning his MVPs, right? He won one year and then won another year. He won back to back. And then he was putting up MVP caliber numbers still. But the thing is, though, it's like, we've seen you put up these numbers before. We've seen you put up 30 and 15 for the year before. So basically what I'm saying is for a person to repeatedly win MVP, not only do you have to put up MVP numbers, but you would basically have to be better than you was the years before when you won MVP is essentially what I'm saying. You're called to do more. It's like, why should we give it to you again? We know you're going to do this. You know you're going to give us 30 and 13 and whatever your stats is. But if you come out here, give us 30, 16, and 7 on like 65% shooting, I'm just making up numbers, then it's like, oh, wow, we kind of have no choice but to give it to you because you're doing better than what you did before. So what I'm saying is, this is Jokic's best year. You have to give it to him, regardless of him winning it 3 times prior or 4 times prior, whatever the number is. You have to get to him because this is better than the years he won. He answered the call of performing, exceeding what was considered MVP caliber numbers prior. He should have won over Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. I'm sorry, because when you look at Shai's numbers, he's averaging 30. Best record in the league. Okay. There's nothing really astounding about that. I mean, it is astounding. I don't mean by that, but compared to that of Jokic, first player to lead the league, to be top 3 in the major statistical categories of basketball, then to average a triple-double, to be the 3rd person to ever do it as a center? And we got to start having some uncomfortable conversations. People talk about how, people don't admire the players. Now, like, who at this point is going to run around and say Jokic is not a top 10 all-time center? When it's said and done, he's going to be a top 5 all-time center. It's hard to talk about top 5 all-time centers and he's not in that conversation. It really is hard. It is. It's crazy. It's hard to mention that. But so Jokic should have definitely won MVP over Shea. Now let's look at DPOY, Defensive Player of the Year. I am sick and tired of bigs getting Defensive Player of the Year. Because because when you look at Defensive Player of the Year, it's about who plays the best defense, who plays defense. Not the most impactful. Like, yes, that does matter, but it's about who's playing defense. Because when you think about it, when you were in high school or middle school, or you was on an AU team, or you ever attended any of those, the person that won all defense or all like conference all defense or whatever, or Defensive Player of the Year of the tournament, you know what I'm saying, best defensive player of the tournament, it was the players that played the best defense. Like, okay, this guy's locked down. Like, this guy held the best player of the tournament that averages 30 to 18 on like 30% shooting. It'd be those guys that win Defensive Player of the Years or best defensive player of the tournament and whatever. So why isn't it like that for the NBA? Because people are getting caught up in these numbers. Rudy Gobert should not have 4 Defensive Player of the Years. Who won this year? Oh, Evan Mobley won this year over Dyson Daniels. Dyson Daniels led the league in steals. And the next closest person was like, 50 plus steals behind him? This is the first time since the 90s we've seen someone average 3 or more steals. And it's not like folks out here is just cooking Dyson Daniels either. Defensive Player of the Year is about playing defense, being a masterful team defender and an individual defender. It's one thing. I mean, I get it. You need somebody that can anchor the defense. You need somebody to be a great team defender. Like Larry Bird's not a great individual defender. He's a great team defender, though. But when it's all said and done, and it's time to get a stop, like last 12 seconds left of the game, you up 1, you need a stop. You gotta come on. You need a guy like that. I tell my friend all the time, he thinks that having an elite rim protector is the most important part of the defense, and it is. I mean, it is important, but I wouldn't say it's the most important. I think that you would suffice with the average or slightly above average rim protector, just somebody that's there. Because at the end of the day, these guys are just being big. Obviously, they're skilled at protecting the rim, but I can't award you just for being big. You're not sliding them puppies. And then when it's time to guard your position, Rudy Gobert, it's one thing for you to get cooked by guards and so on. But when it's time for you to guard your position and you're getting cooked, that's unacceptable. This is your position. This is why you're here. So you telling me that you could get stops on guys you're taller than, which is what you're supposed to do, but when someone is your height or slightly above, all of a sudden you're cooked? No. Then you're not that elite of a defender. We need guys that could get stops. Even if your best player on another team is a big or a forward or whatever, you still need perimeter defenders. Why? Prime example, the Chicago Bulls, right? They wasn't locked in on stopping Reggie Miller, even though that's important. But if you stop Mark Jackson, who is giving Reggie the ball, you made it difficult for Mark Jackson to get into the offense and made it difficult for him to get the ball to Reggie, then guess what? Reggie's numbers are down. He's not getting as many touches. Why? Because their point guard is having a hard time getting down the court, setting up the offense. Now, a lot of times, the most influential players are guards or wings. Really, a lot of times, the best player on the team is some sort of wing, right? So that just tells you the importance of having perimeter defenders. Even if, like Joel Embiid, for example, I'm focused on making it difficult for Tyrese Maxey or any of the guards in perimeter for getting it to Joel Embiid to begin with. You can live with Jokic dropping 40 on you, but Jamal Murray can't have over 25 or 30. That's why you need perimeter defenders. You can't just have cones on the perimeter. It's not okay. You can't just have cones on the perimeter. You need guys that can get stops. Because like I said, the most influential player a lot of times are guards and wing players. Why? Because they have the balls in their I said balls. chill. They have the ball in their hand more often. They're the ones making the decision with the ball, and they're the ones deciding when and where the ball goes. If you make it difficult for them, if you make life hell for them, then I'll give you a chance to win. So that's why I say that Dyson Daniels should win Defensive Player of the Year. There's no reason why. I'm tired of perimeter players not getting Defensive Player of the Year. I'm sick of it. They need to separate the award of post defender of the year, best post defensive player, and then best perimeter defensive player or something like that. I don't know, but they got to do better. I even had to talk with Dyson Daniels because I work at 680 The Fan, and I got to go in the locker room and stuff. I work as media for the Hawks, so I went into the locker room. It's actually on my Instagram, Reverend_Roland, ROLAND, and I asked Dyson Daniels, I said, what would your criteria be for who wins Defensive Player of the Year? And then he had joked at first and said, hey, if it was up to me, it'll be about steals. Naturally, of course. But, he talked about how, it's about fighting over screens and forcing missed shots and, staying in front of your man. Things of that nature affected people's field goal percentage and, stuff like that. That should be considered for who wins Defensive Player of the Year, who's truly affecting the other team's best player and so on. Okay. Now let's look at the Western Conference Finals and Eastern Conference Finals matchups. I want this to be a quick episode, so I'll make this quick. Just a couple more points, y'all. Stay with me. Stay with me now. I would prefer to see the Knicks and Timberwolves play in the finals because they are both like super physical and gritty teams. I think that'll be a better matchup to watch, especially to the storyline of the trade between Cat and Julius Randle. You get to see them go at it, and then whoever wins that series wins the trade. Like, just the storyline behind that. Y'all traded Cat. Y'all traded Julius Randle. Both made it to the finals. Like, who doesn't want to see that? However, though, who would I pick to win the Western Conference Finals? Both so far as of today, before Game 2. Actually, Game 2 is about to happen soon. It's 8:21 p.m. right now. Game 2 of the Western Conference Finals between Timberwolves and the Thunder is about to happen soon at 8:30. If I had to pick, I want to say OKC will win because they got more offense, at least the way it looks, than Timberwolves. But I don't know. It's just something about the Timberwolves. I want to pick the Timberwolves. All right, fine, fuck it. I'm gonna just go ahead and say it. I'm gonna say Timberwolves, and I was going to say New York, but the way what the Pacers did yesterday, and then Tyrese Haliburton is making me more of a believer by the day. I almost want to say Timberwolves and Pacers. Should I commit to it? I don't know. I'm gonna just say what I want to see: Timberwolves and Knicks. But I think the Pacers might win that though. All right, last two things. The Houston national title, Houston versus Florida for March Madness. I know this is a little old, guys, but that's one of the worst ways to go out. It's one thing to get a shot up and miss at the end of a game at the buzzer. It's one thing to get a shot up and miss. It's another thing to not get a shot up, because when you don't get a shot up, you don't know. It's like, damn, what could have happened? And it's just really unfortunate that he didn't get a shot up. I ain't gonna lie. I was actually going for Houston. I love their defense and the way they played. They had a black head coach and so on. I was excited. And it was up too. Until Walt, I forgot the kid's last name. But he got loose. And then, Florida won and they just wasn't able to get a shot up. Bro got stuck in the air. He should have threw the ball. This is a heads-up play, but he should have threw the ball off the defender that contested the shot. Then he would have been able to touch the ball again. But because he didn't, he wasn't able to touch the ball. But I don't know if people really know that. I mean, people know that, but people don't do it. So because people don't do it, I don't think they know it. But you can throw the ball off the defender, though. And that's perfectly legal. So, but yeah, that guy sucked, though, not getting a shot up at all. And the thing is, too, is that I covered the SIAC tournament, which is a college conference, D2, Division II, that's mostly comprised of HBCUs. And I got to cover the SWAC tournament, which is a D1 conference, mostly comprised of HBCUs. I would really love to see an HBCU go dancing in the March Madness tournament. Although that did happen this year. Alabama State won the SWAC tournament, and then they won the first 4 game. But they lost in the first game, the first round of the national tournament against Auburn. They lost to Auburn. Southern University women's team, they lost to UCLA in the first round. Norfolk State men's team, they lost to, I forgot who they lost to, but I would love to see HBCUs and the national tournament more often. I would love to see them make deeper runs. And watching the HBCU win a national championship would mean just as much, really probably more, especially because considering the fact I went to HBCU as well. That would mean just as much, if not more. Probably more as Atlanta winning a championship, winning the title. So I definitely want to see that. Something's got to change. When you look at the percentages, I looked at the percentages. A very considerable amount of NCAA athletes are African American, and when you look at that, and that HBCUs is not talked about enough, covered enough, and, you know, don't contend enough in these, you know, tournaments and so on. It just doesn't make sense. But and it's purposeful though. You know, they don't want us to make money. Like, just imagine if someone like a Ace Bailey, just random name, went to a HBCU. Think about the money it would bring in. It make other good players want to come. Think about the money it bring in for the school, for the surrounding area. But yeah, I just love to see that. I would love to see that, man. HBCU make a deep national title run and win it. Last but certainly not least, what did Nico know? What did he know? What did he know? That's what I want to know. What did he know that we didn't? Somebody tell me. Because he knew something. That don't make sense. All right, guys. Thank you for listening to the Overlooked and Underrated podcast where we debate about sports and music. I appreciate everybody for coming out and checking out the episode. Make sure you tell somebody else about it. This was actually a really good episode. I try to keep it as short as possible. The intro and outro is by my brother, Jukes, the producer. And if you want your music played on my podcast, all you have to do is donate to the Overlooked and Underrated Scholarship. The link to that, it will be in the description of this episode. Help someone go to school, help someone go to college. And I think that's about it. Thanks.